Come and go with me. I'm on an adventure to find fresh water. As fluid a conversation as the liquid itself, hop in and let's ride. My first stop was realizing the oxymoron that the body was 97% water and that 97% of the world's water supply was salt water, and the overall 6 billion people had to share 3% of the fresh water, with the consensus explaining that 2% is frozen in the polar ice cap and that only 1% had to be divided between us. In a report by the BBC titled Middle East Water Crisis, quote, governments in the Middle East and North Africa need to invest now if they want to avoid severe water shortages in the future, the World Bank has warned, quote unquote. Also, the corporation's responsibility is tremendous. In an attempt to show this, BP actually published a report on their use of water titled Water Management. In this report, quote, it's essential for ensuring the integrity of many ecosystems. Demand for fresh water is rising. The consequences of a growing world population and increasing demand in developing countries. Yet in many areas of the fresh water, supplies are either scarce or being over-extracted or unfit for use because of pollution. Quote unquote. Activist Maul Barlow, in an article published by Organic Consumers Association dated September 26, 2007, quote, first of all, we are creating an ecological crisis by not taking care of our water supplies. Surface waters are being polluted, and we are mining our groundwater at unsustainable rates. At the very time when corporations are privatizing everything, our governments are allowing corporations to move in and take over the ownership of essential resources like water, quote unquote. In an article dated March 3, 2010 by Herbert C. Young titled U.S. Regional Water Challenges, subtitled Drought is Not the Only Major Water Challenge, he went on to say, quote, water suppliers, local, state, and federal governments are concerned about maintaining the flow of fresh, clean drinking water in 3 U.S. regions unaccustomed to drought, quote unquote. He mentions the ideal that providers in Georgia, the Great Lakes, and the Ogallala aquifer of the Great Plains are planning for and even facing the possibility that fresh water supplies will run dry. In this article, he went on to quote an Associated Press news story by Greg Bloomstein, dated October 20, 2007, notes, quote, Georgia officials warned that Lake Lanier, which supplies more than 3 million residents of Atlanta with water, is less than 3 months from depletion, quote unquote. All the road signs pointed to Georgia, disputing this 1818 boundary survey with Tennessee in an effort to move Georgia's state line 1.5 miles north to the Middle Tennessee River. In an article on the internet titled Champion Paper, Politics, and the Pigeon River Controversy, quote, for 7 decades, Champion Canton Mill polluted the wheel, quote unquote. This involved a multi-million-dollar pulp mill set up in Canton, North Carolina, which provides economic stimulus for thousands of workers and the despairing defeat of economic prosperity for the folks in Harkin County, Tennessee, who are reaping the environmental consequences. www.unc.ed. On my adventure, I really couldn't enjoy it because of the scenery involving politicians, courts, and federal agencies entangled with this freshwater issue. After pulling into my driveway, I wanted to end my adventure with one of the top 10 products. Well, when I worked with Walmart, it was number 1, and that is bottled water.